Are you following me? Are you following me, dude?
All right. This week's Instagram that we're following is Sisters in the Garden. Sisters in the Garden is three sisters set in Davis County along the Wasatch Mountains. When they started their Instagram page, it was purely for fun and a creative way for them to share. And as they've organically gained more and more followers and had so many people message them to let them know that their page has inspired them to garden and try new things, has made all of the time spent worth it. They each have their individual strengths and wanted to share with others to inspire them to learn something that has become an outdated hobby and way of life. So let's welcome with us Sisters in the Garden to the show. Hi, how are we doing? Welcome to Let's Get Growing.
Thanks. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, absolutely. Here,
Okay.
I gotta do one thing here. Make sure we're not getting too much echo there, but yeah. So how are you all doing? How's everything growing in your gardens?
Not really.
Not yet.
We have a lot of
Not
seedlings
really, not
growing.
yet.
Yeah, we've got
Similar
snow
issues
around.
probably with weather and all of that, right?
Yep, we've had snow all week, and we have. I think it's for the next 2 days we have snow, so
Yeah.
we just have seedlings growing.
Awesome, awesome. So I'll give you a real chance here to introduce yourselves and tell us a bit more about your Instagram and what you guys do there with your gardens.
Okay, you want to go?
Well, first off, we're obviously missing a sister. She's out of town, so unfortunately she is not with us. But I'm Megan. This is
I'm Jess.
Jess, and then Nikki Nix is out of town, so she's not with us today. But I don't know. Do you want to start off?
Well, do you want to just know kind of how we got started then? Is that
Yeah.
okay? Well, we have on both sides of our family we have gardeners. So on one side of our family, our grandma had a huge garden and an orchard, and we just spent summers going to her house and picking cherries and beans and all kinds of stuff to bring home and can. And our mom canned a lot of food, and so we have lots of memories sitting in our kitchen processing all that. And then we also had a grandma who lived in Roseburg, Oregon, and she had the most amazing rose garden. And so we have memories of going to her house and just smelling her roses and hanging out in there. So it's just kind of something we grew up with, and so that's kind of what inspired us to just having them. But
I was going to say I kind of wasn't a part of the Roseburg, Oregon. I was a little too young, but same. I just remember going to my grandmother's house in Bountiful, Utah, and she had a huge garden, and she had us picking all kinds of stuff, and there's a lot of canning going on when we were younger. But I wasn't really into gardening until probably the last 8 or 9 years. So
Okay.
I'm kind of more of a newbie when it comes to that. Jessie has been gardening for a long time, but so.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, that's similar to me. I've just got gardening myself in probably the last 10 or so years myself. But so that's cool that you guys all kind of work together to manage your Instagram and manage the gardens and do all of that sort of stuff. How fun is that to be able to work together and do that sort of project?
Yeah, lots of laughing, giggling, making
Lots
fun
of
of ourselves. We have a good time.
Yeah, we do. We just it's just been a good experience because we feed off each other, with different things, and when it comes to seeds or just different plants, we just kind of are able to feed off each other, which is really nice, and support each other. So it's great.
Yeah, that is a really good thing to be able to have each other, to be able to learn different things as you're each learning those different things. So what is it that each of you like most about gardening?
For me, I would say the end results.
Yeah.
I love the I love to see what I can grow, how much I can get for the season. Just cooking every night. I go out into the vegetable garden and grab a bunch of vegetables to use for that night, and that's the most satisfying part for me.
Mine would be me time.
Yes.
I think in the beginning when I started, I was dealing with some postpartum after my second child, and my sweet mother-in-law that kind of got me into gardening. She's just like a magician with the garden, and she's the one that really inspired me to start gardening. And so when I was dealing with some of that, some postpartum stuff, she was very like, hey, you should start gardening. She was very, trying to support me and encourage me. And so it was kind of like, okay, sure, I'll do it. And so I started it with just basic stuff. My concept of gardening is very open. It's just a slab of dirt. And so she basically was like, go in the sunshine, go play in the dirt, go plant something, like be out in the sunshine. I guarantee that's going to help you. And so I started doing that. And I started with really simple, like zucchini, carrots, tomatoes, something, pretty easy to grow. And then I just fell in love, and it just became almost an obsession. And so.
Yeah, it's an easy obsession to attain, because I think that, and I tell people a lot this too, is if you're dealing with things and you're having issues with whatever it is, at home, at work, just life in general, all that sort of stuff, which most of us do, there's some sort of life pressures that happen, when you get out there and you get your hands in the soil, when you're out there planting and taking care of plants, there's just this sort of, as we call it, garden therapy that happens. It's a really great place to be, to just, like you said too, have some me time, some time to kind of work out certain things while you're working in the garden. It's one of the best things. And then, like your sister said there too, that you get all of these benefits that come with it, not just the mind and soul, you get all this food that you get to, enjoy, much more nutritious food that you can ever get. So what are some of your favorite plants to grow in the garden?
Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
You go first.
My favorite is also my least favorite. And I think because I love brassicas. So I love the broccoli and the cauliflower. I have the most amazing cauliflower recipe that I love to cook. Lettuce, all those things. But I have a really big problem with aphids. They just know where it's going to be, and obviously I rotate my crops every season, but they find them. So I've had, years of just, this year I'm going to try this, and this year I'm going to try that. And I finally last year planted an entire bed of Bibb lettuce right next to my bed of broccoli and cauliflower. And they just attacked the lettuce, and they completely left my broccoli alone. So that was kind of exciting just to see, that they did that. I'm going to try it again this year. Hopefully I have the same success. And then I still was able to eat the lettuce because I just washed off the aphids. No big deal. Although people do tell me that you can eat them. And it just grosses me out. I would never, but so the plants that are a lot of work, that cause a lot of stress for me, I stress, are those aphids going to attack them? Those are my least favorite because I worry about them. Where, for me, zucchini is a no worry crop for me. I've never had problems with zucchini and pumpkins and those types of things, where the broccoli and cauliflower I'm always stressed. So they're my favorite and least favorite.
So favorite and
least favorite.
Okay. Yeah. I would say probably my favorite are artichokes, which, I feel like there's not a whole lot you have to do after they're, growing. But I always say artichokes, but I think I might say tomatillos.
Oh,
I think I might say tomatillos, just because I've just recently in the last few years started growing them, and I found some awesome recipes for,
amazing.
salsa verde and everything like that. So I think they're probably my favorite. And I've had a lot of people ask questions about them, and I've just been able to harvest a lot of them. And
Yeah.
so I think they're probably my favorite right now. But
Yeah, tomatillos are pretty prolific for sure. I mean, I've grown them and I started growing them around our spaces a couple of seasons ago, about 3 or 4 seasons ago, actually. And I grew them just once
mhm.
myself and put seeds in. And now every year they pop up all over the place.
Oh
So
yeah.
not only are they, growing, they're also something I have to weed out
Yes.
as well too, because they do get everywhere.
Yes.
But they are great. I love tomatillos,
Yes.
and I also have to agree about the brassicas. Brassicas remain one of my biggest challenges, but one of the
Mm.
things I really like the most too.
Mhm.
I love broccoli. It's one of my favorite things. Cabbage has been a challenge for me every single year, and again, similar issues with infestations of pests and different things like that. But again, I try year in, year out. I mention this each week pretty much on the show, is that, it is my biggest garden challenge, but I plan on, winning that challenge eventually.
Yes.
All right. So, what are some of the, okay, so our question for this week was what are your hardest gardening challenges? What are those things that you find really kind of that really challenge you the most? I know we kind of covered brassicas a little bit
Well,
there in pests,
yes.
but you got some garden challenges you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think for me, taking the time to go out and spend at least minimum 5 minutes in your garden to look under leaves, check for
Yeah,
squash bugs, check for anything starting, because for instance, Nikki has really struggled with squash bugs, and last year she was so good about checking every day, and she killed a lot of them, and they just took over. They just kept coming and coming and coming. She's like, I'm being so
yeah,
diligent, I'm trying so hard, and they just keep coming back. And she's got to do that for a couple years to get it under control. But same with me, I just remember to take the time, you know minimum of 5 minutes, but and usually for me it ends up being like an hour or so.
Mhm.
yeah,
Once I get in there, I'm in there. But
Yeah.
that's what I think is a challenge, to just take the time to go and look under things.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. Mine would probably be weeds, because my garden versus theirs, they have the awesome raised beds and is it gravel on your ground.
Mhm.
And
Cool.
Nikki's got the same concept, cement, cement beds, and their concept's different than mine. Mine's just open ground, railroad
yeah,
ties around, fencing around type thing. But
yeah,
so because I love that, just walking in the dirt,
yeah,
playing in the dirt, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to put raised beds and stuff. And so, but because I choose to do that, I deal with a lot of weeds, and I
yeah.
try to keep it under control. I do what I can. If I go out of town, it's a forest, but that's probably my challenge. So,
Yes, actually, I think that's pretty consistent amongst most gardeners, is
yeah.
those actually both challenges, for one, again, taking the time to do the things that you need to do, whether it's those pesky squash bugs. And believe me, I got lucky my first several seasons. I did not get very many squash bugs on all of my different squash varieties that I was growing, but the last season or 2, it's
Mhm.
amazing, and just like you said, I don't know where they come from, you
Mhm. Yeah.
and I don't know how they get so prolific, and they grow extremely fast, as they go from these just little things to these big old bugs climbing all over the place, and they
And
get
can I
really
say
hard to.
how ugly they are when they hatch? Like
Oh,
little alien, they are so gross.
They're so gross.
So gross. They just creep me out when they hatch. Oh,
they're disgusting, they're
so gross.
disgusting. Actually, this last year, I resorted to getting, like, a little hand vac,
Mm.
and started vacuuming them up because it just got to be so much and so much of a task to try to keep after every year. So I thought that it was actually good, but again, if you're not finding all of those eggs that seem to get everywhere, and if you've got a lot of leaves and a lot of plants, they just find themselves all over the place and become nearly impossible to take care of. But one of those ones that, like you said, and of course, weeds is really the bane of the existence of all gardeners. They just come and come and come, similar I guess to the squash bugs too, and you've got to pull them out, you've got to take them out. And again, also going back to the tomatillos, it's amazing the things that actually become weeds too, when you start letting things just kind of freely drop in all the different seeds if you're growing a lot of different varieties of things. So let's see here. So again, we kind of talked about in your bio, but what, let's go over again what really inspired you guys to really get started with taking all of these, experiences and all of your gardening and all of that and going and sharing it with everybody on Instagram. I mean, you guys have really done a great job with your Instagram,
Well,
and
thank you.
gotta be amazed at, all of those really, when you have around 111,000 followers. Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
It's been fun. It's been surprising, but it's been very fun.
We've had a really good time, which is why we started it. I started my first garden. Well, I started with flowers, but I started my first garden back in probably 2011 at a different house, and I started kind of learning that way, just trial and error. And then when Megan started hers, 2013ish,
Yeah.
we both just on our own learned and compared notes, and it was kind of fun for us to say, hey, look what I got to grow, or look what I totally killed,
Look what I failed.
and then I would give her starts or she'd give me starts, and it just kind of started from there. And then I moved and had my husband build me a little garden sanctuary where I can just go and hide. If my kids are being stinkers, I can go in there and hide or whatever. It's like my gated sanctuary. And her husband did the same thing and kind of enclosed hers from her dogs eating her vegetables. And everyone just kept saying, why are you not sharing this with others? Why are you not, you guys know so much, and why are you not doing something with it? And I'm not really technologically savvy, and
I'm not either.
So we just were like, well, maybe we'll start an Instagram and just post some fun things. And then our baby sister is really good at house plants and cooking. She's an amazing cook. And so we kept saying to her, you should come do it with us. And so it's just turned into this fun sisters, we share starts with each other. Nikki will share her houseplants with us. And it's just been a fun thing. And we've gained a garden community where we try to get to everyone's messages. We try to not ever let messages go unanswered on DMs, but people will message us and just say, I had this problem. What do you think? And it's just been fun to meet people. I've gone out to lunch with people that we've met on Instagram. I mean, it's just been so much fun.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
Anything to add to that?
No, I think, that's, she said it.
She said it. That's right. And that's again one of those things that I found too. And it's kind of something, your story is kind of similar, as you had people kind of encourage you to do that, and that's what's similar. I've got a small urban garden utilizing some different spaces. I grow in an alleyway, and at the time when I started getting advice about sharing what I was doing, I was growing up on a rooftop of a carport all of these pepper plants. I had this really cool pepper garden up there, and being on an alleyway and being in the neighborhood, I'd have people who would come by. I mean, literally, like, just come by. Hey, I saw what you're doing. Tell me a little bit more about it. And then a few people would be like, hey, you need to share this. And I started with like a Facebook page, and then eventually you know, it was a couple of people I had communicated with through YouTube were like, hey, you should make some videos and show everybody what you're doing. And from there, you know, here we are, you know, you guys as well, right here on our show, Let's Get Growing. It all becomes some of this, you know, something that's even bigger than what we envisioned it to begin with, you know, but we've gained this really awesome community. There's nothing or no community better in my mind than the gardening community out there. You know, there's so many wonderful people. And again, one of the real reasons why I started this show was to be able to talk with all of you wonderful, awesome people. And it's been really awesome to have you guys on our show today. I really want to thank you. And when you get a chance, you know, say hi to your sister for me.
Thank you.
We will.
All right. Thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you so
You guys
much.
are wonderful. Awesome.